What's up guys? Now when it comes to building muscle, the most common patterns or styles of training that I've seen is having some strength days and hypertrophy days, which is great. I do believe in it and I feel it's a great way of progressing and a great idea in terms of where you look into both intensity and volume. But one of the biggest parameters that I have noticed and probably why that most people are not getting optimal gains is because of too much volume. I do understand that you have hypertrophy days as well as strength days, but the most important thing is how you allocate your volume and intensity throughout the week. You can look at it in a very micro basis, like each day, each set, each variation, or on a macro basis in a month or in your whole program altogether. But let us break it down, make it a lot more simple in terms of how you would go about this. And let me give you examples as to why I feel that most people are using too much volume. If I look into any regular hypertrophy training for most people, what I have noticed from experiences, I've seen people throwing in about 4 to 5 variations for chest with about 3 to 4 sets with 10 to 12 repetitions. It is not going to be too bad, definitely great pump. It's not wrong as such, but then again, when you come back for your strength days, it's so muscle damaging that you're not recovered to the point where you can perform at an optimal level. And that is where it could be more damaging than you receiving more benefit or getting more out of it. So one thing you have to remember that hypertrophy, yes, the key driver is volume, but high volume is also more muscle damaging, which can impact the subsequent sessions. Now you don't want that to happen. So a couple of things that I do generally is I would prioritize my strength training. So strength days or high intensity days is something that I start my week with and I end with hypertrophy. Now this is not a set rule. It is very subjective based on the coach or based on how you program as such. But I feel this is more I get more out of it. This is more beneficial to me and it comes to my numbers and feeling better. This works very, very fine. So end of the day, it's all about how you play with these parameters throughout the whole program. Now, ideally, if you want me to give you an example of how much volume to play with per set, it is so subjective only because the way an experienced lifter would train to a beginner is very different. So let's take the squat for example. A beginner would focus on a squat, if you're not guided too well, as just sitting up and coming down. Sitting down and coming up. But most experienced people will think about, okay, fine, what is the function? Let me focus on getting my hips back, opening my knees, feeling the muscles contract. So it's a different ball game. When you look into your training in this perspective, the whole program in itself becomes totally different or can become irrelevant to beginners as such. So if you're a beginner, just focus on getting that form right. I would say high volume just so that you can learn the movement right. Look at reps as practice, not look at reps as you maximizing the best or to get the best output in terms of your program. Look at volume as practice. All right, so taking all this into consideration, what I would do is I would start off with a strength day. Definitely it is subjective and I've seen for most people when it comes to strength, it's always 5 by 5, 5 by 5, 5 by 5. 5 by 5 does not mean strength. You can work with any parameter whatsoever based on what you want to optimize. So it is subjective to your goals, subjective to your lifts and overall the program in a very micro or a macro perspective. The biggest takeaway or the most important thing I would say is don't overdo volume because it can have a negative impact to your subsequent sessions. Doesn't always mean because you're sore, you've had a great workout, or because why am I not sweating or why am I not so pumped today, does not mean you're having a bad workout as such. So remember, try to structure it, try to make sure that you have a good balance and make sure that you're performing optimally. Get your sleep in, get your food in, and most importantly, don't overdo the volume if you're training with this style. You will see results. In fact, it will be a lot better. It will be a lot more rewarding. You want to look at your training not for just one day, but you want to look at it as a program as a whole or for a program as a whole. Okay, so that was pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching and make sure you subscribe.